Okay. Good morning, and welcome to another session of Real Estate 101. We're super excited to have you guys here, and we thank you for taking the time out of your busy Saturday to join us and learn about real estate and meet our amazing guests and have them share their insights and their journey with you a little bit in terms of today we're going to be talking about condos, pre-construction, and resale. So let me just get into my little spiel. So Real Estate 101 is sponsored by the Keen Real Estate Group in collaboration with the OFC, and we welcome you to this informative event that will sharpen your knowledge of real estate investing, as well as introduce you to strategies the wealthy use to increase income and build generational wealth. Learn what's new in the world of real estate, meet up with some of your neighbors, and most importantly, find out how you can earn extra income through real estate. Farah, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. So I'm grateful to you all for being here. I'm grateful to life, God, our creator, and our ancestors for always creating these great opportunities for us to be able to come together and to build together as a community. So just to introduce the OFC for those who don't know. So I'm Farah Hamid Freeman. I'm the founder and director of the OFC. OFC stands for One Full Circle. So we are the melanated community, actually now termed as Melanated Community National Super Hub. So basically, we are a community resource. We're here as a 411 for the community. We're here to bridge. We bridge between the French and the English-speaking melanated community, and we bridge between individuals as well as business owners. And our process and our philosophy is really simple. People come to us for everything. Our slogan is think of us first for all your community and your business needs. And as they come to us, we refer them to the entrepreneurs and the business owners and organizations within the community. Our whole thing is really, we have a community commitment that everybody signs when joining the OFC community that says that we're going to work together, we're going to build together, despite our differences, despite race, religion, cultural differences. We're here to work together to build an economic foundation for our future generation. So anybody who resonates with that and who believes in that philosophy is welcome to be a part of our community. And that's why doing these type of things is really important for us, because again, we're talking generational wealth, we're talking educating our community and empowering our community. So I thank everybody for being here. I'm looking forward to another awesome workshop. I'll share our link in the chat. So for anybody who wants more information, either you want to book a one-on-one with me to find out more about the OFC, or if you just want to find out more information, I'll put the links there in the chat for you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. And Andrea?
Yeah, that was great, Farah. So you could, I love what you said, Farah, because it's all about building generational wealth. And when Kemba and I built Keen Real Estate Group, we did it with very similar visions in mind to build a strong community, do it collaboratively to help each other find and network and build that team of experts that can support us so that we can, journey and do it well and do it like awesome the first time around. So at Keen Real Estate Group, we are about helping you get the education that you need to build wealth through real estate. And we do that through our coaching, our consultation, property management services. Because Kemba and I have been doing it ourselves individually at the outset, and now collaboratively as a partnership, we know what it takes to be successful in real estate. And so that's what we're helping our community, helping anyone that is looking to build wealth in real estate or build wealth generationally. They can help, we can help them do that through real estate. And so today, one of the product style that we're going to cover is one that we ourselves have used. I'm in fact sitting in one today, and all I can hear is drilling around me. It's pre-construction condos, and the condominiums is an excellent way to build wealth through real estate, because you can often buy it well in advance of construction. So you're buying it at the introductory prices, which often, once they're built, has a substantial increase in value. And so today we've got a couple experts, so I don't need to get into all of it, but they're going to share with you how you can use pre-construction condos and condominiums. And I think just resale in general, we're looking at resale properties as well to build wealth in real estate.
Awesome.
And my business partner is Kemba. And of course, now our new partnership with One Full Circle OFC I think that together we are way stronger than individually.
Thank you for that introduction. Yes, and I am that other half of the Keen partnership. So just to introduce our guests, without further ado, we have the lovely Sasha McInnis, who is here with us today. And Sasha has a long career in even before real estate in IT and systems analyst, systems building. And now she's been in real estate. Sasha, how long have you been in real estate now?
I got started in 2015, and then I had taken a break so I could have my twins, and then I got back in 2019.
Nice. So Sasha has quite a few years of experience in real estate, helping folks build wealth, helping them acquire and dispose of real estate in any fashion. So she has a lot of knowledge, and she's here to just share with us a little tidbit of that, because real estate is not the gamut. Just before I turn it over to you, Sasha, to introduce yourself, I'll just say a little bit about Kwesi, and then so Kwesi Johnson is here with us as well. He's a real estate agent in the Toronto area, and Kwesi is an amazing person and community builder. We met him actually a year ago
Almost a year ago.
Maybe in April, a year ago in April.
Yeah.
And just getting to know Kwesi, he shares so much, and so this was a great fit to have him come on and share about condos. So Sasha, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself, because there's way more than what I said.
No, you pretty much got it. So my name is Sasha McInnis. Good morning, everybody. And as Kemba was saying, I used to work in IT. I was a system analyst and a web developer for many, many years. And in 2015, I said, you know what, I want to take the skills that I've developed in IT. There's a lot of solutions that you're looking for that when you're working with your clients, a lot of attention to detail. I wanted to be able to put that into something that I actually enjoyed a little bit more. So I decided to completely turn around and switch careers and get into real estate. So right now I am the head broker for Team McInnis at a brokerage called Nous, Vendons, Votre, Maison. In other provinces, it's more commonly known as Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And I work with all types of clients, as Kemba was saying, whether it's for single family, multifamily, condos. I own a few condos myself as well, so I'm very involved in terms of administration of condos. And I have a bit of specialized training with regard to the laws here, specifically in Quebec for condominiums, because they've been changing over the last couple of years. And so, we serve clients in and around the greater Montreal area. And so that's it. I decided to completely turn that around so I can help people build wealth and just do something that I love, essentially.
Awesome.
And thank you for that, Sasha. Thank you. And welcome again. And Mr. Johnson, can you share a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, good day, everybody. Again, my name is Kwesi Johnson, and I think the primary way I introduce myself to the world is that I'm a community servant. I got into real estate after seeing a few key folks in my life who were realtors at the time just go out and do some phenomenal things. I was looking at them and thinking, okay, this might be something. But I read a book, or I was listening to an audiobook once, and it talked about this story of Paris Hilton's great-grandfather. And he had, among other things, he had a conversation with a friend of his father's. And the advice that was given to him was that if you want to launch big ships, you have to go where the water is deep. And I heard that in connection with some of the other experiences that I had at the time. I thought to myself, real estate is a good place for me to not only do what I love, which is to support and serve community, but also try to transform community in a particular way. So I'm always in community. I love, community initiative and events. Giving back is something that I was, growing up in the church. It's always about, building and supporting community in a particular way. And just to opportunity to transition that passion into something like real estate, where it is really about, supporting each and every client, one, transaction, one conversation at a time, has been something that I've been able to be just happy and grateful for. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and hopefully I'll be able to pass on some knowledge and provide some insights with regards to this particular topic.
Awesome. Okay. So without further ado, thank you so much, Kwesi, for joining us, and let's get started. So we want to just, this session is like a conversation, and we want to make sure that we're getting our questions answered. So for the audience, folks, as we go through, as you think of questions you might have, please put them in the chat. But let's start with the basics of what is a condo, and what when you hear the words pre-construction versus resale, it sounds like, what is it? What does it mean? Maybe I can start with you, Sasha.
Yeah, sure. So a condo is a type of property that's divided into several units. And so each unit is owned by a different person. Okay. And there's also within that same building, that same project, there's also what we call common areas. So common area could be, for example, where your swimming pool is, or your rooftop terrace, for example, or a garden area. Those common areas are jointly owned by all of the co-owners. And so the maintenance and operating costs that we normally call condo fees are shared by all of the co-owners based on a certain percentage of their ownership within the building. And so although each person individually owns their specific unit, they're responsible for the general maintenance and upkeep of the entire building to make sure that it stays in good condition. Yeah. So in terms of your other question regarding, the difference with resale, pre-construction and resale, pre-construction essentially is, it's not built yet. So you're sort of buying it on plan. So you can go and see the builder, and he'll provide you with a plan of what the project is supposed to include. You get a list of inclusions with your unit, and you're you don't have the the ability to see the project obviously before it's finished, but you get a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like and what's going to be included, and you have the ability to be able to choose your finishings and really customize the unit to your needs. And especially if you're buying at the beginning of the project, you have access to a lot of discounts on the sales. They want to make sure they get a lot of units sold in advance, so that's a good thing as well. Whereas resale it's already built. It is what it is. You see it in advance. You know exactly what you're getting. The finishings are already done, and it's move-in ready. So just a different type of way of going about it. Some people prefer to have, they prefer to see it, and especially if it's, someone who's completely new to buying altogether, whether it's a condo property at all, they prefer to just, have something resale where they can see and really know what they're getting into. But other people who are more familiar, they like to be able to really customize it and get some of those deals in the beginning. And so that's it. Essentially.
Well, that's pretty clear. Kwesi, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just one quick point in terms of condominiums. They are kind of governed by a board of owners that are elected to manage the building's operations and finances to make important decisions on behalf of a community. So that's just one thing that I, in addition to all the wonderful things that were mentioned by Sasha, that I wanted to introduce there. And much like she had mentioned, one of the differences, that customizable piece on the front of the pre-construction condominium, so a condo that hasn't been built as yet, you do have the ability to kind of select and customize that particular space to a bit of your liking, while on the other front, you have the ability from a resale perspective to really have that asset be provided to you a bit more quickly than the other. So you have that immediate, you go towards closing much faster, while unlike let's say for a pre-construction, you'd have to wait about 4 or 5 years. And we can dive into a bit more of that kind of process with the pre-cons as we move along.
And Kemba will also address the questions as they come in the chat. Just let me know, because we do have someone in the chat with something.
Sure, let's go ahead with the question then.
Yeah, so just to keep in mind, some of it we may cover over time, but what are some of the pros and cons, right? Or the risks of buying a pre-construction, pre-sale condo, as opposed to a obviously resale, like Sasha gave a really good description of each of them. But what can happen, for example, if the project in the pre-construction one does not come to fruition, and is there a possibility of losing your down payment?
Mm-hmm. Kwesi, why don't you get, whoever wants to start.
Well,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, Sasha. No, please go ahead.
Well, here we have what we call GCR. GCR is the new construction guarantee. So up to $50,000 of your down payment is protected by GCR. And so that's the maximum you can put down while the project is underway. And so if anything were to happen, you do have them there that protects your initial down payment. And also, if, for example, the property is delayed, not necessarily doesn't come to fruition, but if it's just delayed, there are ways in your in the agreement to make sure that you have provisions for what happens when the project isn't delivered on time, and what are the obligations of the builder in that case.
Mm-hmm.
So only caveat or only additional thing I'd like to add is that whenever you start the process in terms of providing the down payment, that pocket of fund that you are handing over is actually going into trust. It's held with lawyers. There's only about, when we talk about GTA or Toronto specifically, there's only about some top law firms that will hold that fund. So the fund doesn't necessarily go to the builder. Only the builder, from a pre-construction perspective, the builder would have to, let's say, for example, sell about 80% of the livable space within the condominium development. And once that is reached, they do that in order to get financing from the financer, whether it is, whatever financer that's looking to support them. So again, when you are placing, let's say, your down payment, you're doing the installments, that's actually going into a trust. And I guess we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other pieces as we move along.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things, though, I don't think we have GCR in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a nuance for Quebec. So Sasha, you're saying that the $50,000 in Quebec is the max you can put down on a pre-construction condo in Quebec.
Correct. Yeah, that's what's guaranteed by GCR specifically. So anything you put above that, they don't cover it. So it's really important to make sure that that you don't surpass that amount, and that you follow the deliveries as it goes along.
And Kwesi, can you respond to here in Ontario what that looks like for, because someone's saying too, if you do above the 50, it seems as if you do above 50 in Quebec, you would potentially lose the rest. And so that's answering the question that someone else has asked in the chat. But what if you're in Ontario and you're doing, 100,000, how does that look, Kwesi?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So as I mentioned, the funds that you're actually putting down are held in trust by the lawyer that's connected to the major project. And ultimately, like, one of the risk factors, let's say, for example, a company or a builder doesn't get to the finish line, the biggest risk, in a sense, the biggest risk factor there is just losing the time that you have allotted to putting the funds into that project. And ultimately, the value of money over time is depreciating in that trust, but that funds then ultimately will be refunded to you. There are some nuanced cases where the accounts have been, not a lot, but the accounts have been from where the funds is being situated. There's some things that occurred, and ultimately companies, for whatever reason, not being above board. But for the most part, when the primary thing is just losing is the time value of money. You're putting money away into this trust, and it's sitting there over time. And let's say, for example, 2-3 years, and the builder hasn't put a shovel in the ground, you kind of would have to kind of question whether or not it's going to go to the finish line, which ultimately you want to have, right? Which is a finished product at the end of the day. So that's does that response kind of speak to what you're thinking about? Okay.
And so,
sorry, go ahead, Kemba.
No, but I'm thinking what we should do is we should get into some of the more details on what the pros and cons are, because I think the question can be very if we sort of consider what all the negatives that could happen, and we can talk a lot about, you know, isolated incidents or things that have happened, but let's talk about in general, what are the pros of getting into, say, a pre-construction condo, and then we can talk about, you know, what that balance is between pre-construction and resale.
Yeah, sorry, Kemba. I just wanted to give a specific example for myself, just to help Kwesi's response in where the funds are held. Because they are held in a trust, you are entitled to get back 100% of what you put in. And I've done it before. I think you might have recalled quite a few years ago, myself and Michelle, right, one of our family members, partnered on a deal in Bowmanville.
Oh, it was Bowmanville. Okay, yeah.
Bowmanville area. And what happened was, it's not that the project didn't go to fruition, it's they changed direction. And because they changed the direction that they decided to go in, from the low-rise condominium to the high-rise condominium, we had been in there for maybe about 2 years already. And we just said, no, we'll just take our money back. And I agree, Kwesi, but the biggest disappointment for us, along with the fact that it didn't build what they had originally scheduled to, was the fact that we left our money for that length of time and we got nothing on it, right? There was no increase in value over time, and we had to walk away. And we walked away mostly because we thought, you want my money for another 2 years to sit here and then you change your mind again? Thank you, we'll take it and go. And it was way more than 50,000, Sasha, because here in Ontario, it really is, in most cases, 20% of the purchase price. And so you're often responsible for 20 to 25% down. And that means a substantial amount of money for 2 years just sitting and not earning. And I couldn't fathom another 2 years not earning.
Okay, no, that's true. That's true. And I do remember that example for sure, because but you have to make those decisions as an investor, right? Is it going to work for you? Is it working for you? Where does it and there is that flexibility if the builder makes a change, that you can adjust and pull out your investment. But if it does get to the point where they're saying they can't do it, as you can hear, you have access to get your money back. You've just lost inflation, whatever that inflation is over that time. And you haven't, and there's an opportunity cost. That's what we're really talking about here. There's an opportunity cost when you put your money into a project that's not complete and you're waiting for that return. Granted, you could be getting appreciation over that time because now, you know, the value of the property may be increasing, but there's also the chance that, you know, something may not go to fruition. I don't have the stats on how many projects don't go to fruition, but I would say there's not that many of them at all. The majority of projects that get put out into the market do get to the end point, and you get to get your condo at the end. So let's continue talking about those pros and cons. Sasha, what are some of the pros and cons of a pre-construction?
What about starting with just the pros?
Oh, sure.
Let's start with all the good things.
Well, the pros are, well, first you have a warranty, right? So you have a 5-year warranty that protects you if there's any kind of defects with the property. You also don't have a lot of maintenance costs, obviously, for the first few years, because the property's brand new, so there's really nothing for you to do right at the beginning. If you're considering renting out your new construction for the first 5 years, you have a lot more flexibility with regard to the rent you can set. So if you look at other types of units, resale, for example, or just regular plexes, you're limited on how you can increase your rents, and you have to be able to do specific calculations to justify the increases. Whereas on a new construction, you have a lot more flexibility. They're not limited like they are for the first, at least for the first 5 years. And so on, there's a lot of potential for growth, especially if you're coming in early on the project and you got it at a great price. Later on, as the other phases come in, as your property starts to gain value, as the rental value starts to increase, that's where you're going to start to see a lot of the value for the pre-construction.
What about you, Kwesi? What are some of the pros that you would add to what Sasha said?
Yeah, so just so again, so when you're purchasing a pre-construction, what you're trying to ultimately do is to purchase something now and hope for the future value to appreciate. I know over time we tend to think that you want to go into a pre-construction, particularly to get to the finish line, and you don't want to think about kind of other ways that you can kind of dislodge the pre-construction, but there are, and I do want to mention this at some point in time. There's a train of thought out there that folks think, well, let's get into pre-construction so that we can get into a place where we can assign the pre-construction. So, you know, the team and I here at Royal LePage Signature often tell folks like you want to be able to get to the finish line completely. But I mean, Sasha had mentioned earlier the piece around customizable. You have the ability to really shape that specific space that you have purchased from the floor plan and customize it in a particular way. And it ultimately, you're receiving a brand new asset, you know, once everything has come to fruition. Another piece that is very useful from a buyer perspective with pre-construction is some of the incentives. So they give you the ability to get involved in the project, you know, by giving you a free some elements within the project that can help you come on board a little bit better and more, whether it be, you know, a parking space, whether it be some of the pieces to bring folks. Is also this idea of the assignment, but we'll talk a little bit about that at another point in time. Things like the cap development charges, and I think we will have a moment to unpack that. So when you are purchasing the pre-construction and you go through the process, there's going to be a lot of kind of legalese that's there, but hopefully you have someone, you know, like a Sasha or the Keen group there to support you in the process, so that some of the fine print, some of those things that might not be so aware of or readily aware of, you can ultimately they can ultimately help you to navigate those murky waters, so that when you get to the finish line, you're not hit with, you know, these development charges or some of these other hidden fees. So I think those are some of the kind of considerations that I wanted to kind of share as well.
No, it's true. It's good to have a guide when you're starting out. If you've done this multiple times before in real estate, maybe you're familiar with where to go, what you're looking for, but it's great to connect with a team who has access to a lot of the incentives to help you get on board. And that's one of the nice things. We got a pre-construction not recently, a couple of years ago, that's coming up now. And we're getting free property management for 2 years. Granted, we don't need it right now because we do that ourselves, but it's a
You
great
need it. It means that we don't have to do the work, Kemba, and I like that. And that's one of the things that a lot of owners like as well, is that they don't want to do the property management. And I agree, they can come to us, or they can buy into projects that give that as a benefit.
Yeah, so that lots of incentives that you could find, and you just ask, you know, depending on what's out there, you know, you ask what opportunities you have to get incentives for those.
Yeah, and Kwesi, you weren't saying that they give you a spot for free, because I know that they gave me a discount on my parking space, a discount. So when it was being sold at 50 or 60,000 to others, I was getting it maybe for 10 or 20,000 less.
Yeah, and it's important too. Yeah, so I will admit, when as you get closer to certain city cores, the incentives kind of look very, very different as you move away. But the incentives do, especially for our investor clients out there. They're saying there's a recent study recent article that came out, I think about 7 hours ago, talking about the amount of units that are coming to market and how many of those units are ultimately being bought by investors, which is around 80% of the units coming to market. In 2023, we have about 25,000 new units, and that is a slowdown in terms of the amount of units that they are projected to bring to market here in the GTA, I will say. And you want to kind of, I say all that to say, you want to really understand this piece around incentive, because it ultimately, it might in a sense, make or break a budget later down the line. You know, one of the things that our team looks at is the occupancy period, and hopefully we'll talk about that. So an incentive that some of our builders are putting in there is this idea of the right to lease during occupancy. And ultimately, in terms of the process, when you get the keys, there's certain situations where you can occupy the space, but not have a mortgage or kind of have that deed placed against that unit in the space. So that period, sometimes, you know, builders can go right to, you know, you getting a mortgage on there, but the idea is there's sometimes some other things that need to be done, and that occupancy period becomes a space where you have to make a decision from a owner standpoint as to what to do. And ultimately, some incentives kind of speak to that. So definitely something to watch out for those folks that are out there that are owners, and in terms of things to think about.
Mm-hmm. So basically, your condo will come up, and the timelines sometimes are not all very defined, and you'll get an occupancy period, and the occupancy period could be short or it could be long. And during that time, you're paying what seems like rent, because it's not actually paying towards your down payment. It's not paying towards your own asset. It's just paying the builder to live there and occupy the unit.
Yeah, I think it's the maintenance fee, some other small charges, but the maintenance fee and a percentage of the developer's interest payments portion of it. Yeah, and it does look and sometimes comes close to the mortgage that one will be paying, but sometimes it's a bit less during that period.
So someone has a question. It's Fatu. Fatu has a question. So as someone trying to buy their first property who is still saving in the saving phase, how much do this of this? Okay, I'm sorry, I have some little people around me. Everything's fine. So how much of their savings should they put down to invest? What percentage will ensure they still have secure enough, and they don't have to worry about the risk? So I'm not sure if I read that right.
Yeah, so I think they're trying to establish, you know, if, for example, they have 30,000, you know, or 50,000 or whatever, because I think we talked to the 50,000 limit in Quebec, where here in Ontario, there is no limit. Really, on a pre-construction, I don't think you get to choose what percentage you put in. It's based on the project. Some projects ask for you to do as low as 5% down until closing, while some of them ask for the 25% upfront. That's part of how they get to sort of progress and move on. So I think the percentage that you put in your savings, I don't know, Kwesi, maybe you guys can help them understand that.
Yeah, so what the rule of thumb that we often like to say is, the more you have kind of stashed away ready to go, the better you are. When you're signing paperwork, we try to say, please, you know, you know, if I'm going to be speaking to my clients, they need to not necessarily show me, but like let me know that there is 5% that's somewhere that they have access to. 10% even better. The rule of thumb is to ensure that you can have maybe that 10% within the first 6 or so months, and depending on how the developer kind of structures or breaks apart the deal. The overarching rule of thumb now, folks are saying maybe 5% over the course of the 5 years. You want to hold on to. I would say just know that you have that 5 to 10% within the first 6 to 12 months is a good rule of thumb for you to kind of lead by, and then ensuring that we don't necessarily know what the future holds, but you have the ability to get to the finish line. That is the key. You have the ability to get to the finish line. I'm dealing with some clients right now that had made, you know, they're investors. Ultimately, you know, we all like to work with investors because their mindset is a little bit different than end users. So I purchased some pre-cons. These are standalone homes, not necessarily the condominiums, but they're in a tight situation right now because the market has shifted so much. Thank goodness we had a pause in terms of the rate by our Federal Reserve, the feds, and we aren't necessarily seeing like this real the uptake for now in terms of the change of in terms of mortgage for those that are in variable. You know, my hat's off to those that are in variable variable right now. But essentially, they purchase at the height of a lot of movement, and now they're in a bit of a tight situation. But they also have done some work around getting other people, and I wanted to discuss this a little bit later on. Getting on board with a few other people in order to move forward with the property is another way to consider just pooling your funds. I know a lot of us have had different ways in which we've done that as various communities, but pooling your funds in order to get to the finish line. But right now is a particularly interesting time for pre-con, especially those that are coming to where they need to get the deed and get a mortgage on their spaces.
Yeah. So I think, and just to be clear, usually when you buy into a pre-construction, there is a payment schedule of how quickly you need to have your deposits and your down payments. Usually a pre-construction is asking you for 20% down. Sasha, in Quebec, is it that they're not asking you for 20% down? They're just asking you to at least put that 50 down?
Correct. So it's up to a maximum of 50, depending on the price of the project. If it's a second property for you, at that point, you will have to put in the 20%. But again, as Kwesi was saying previously, that's in a trust account.
Okay. So I think that what that means is that if you plan ahead and you look for a project that has maybe a more drawn out timeline, because there will be different projects. Some will say, this will be ready in 1 year. Really? Okay, so that means they'll have shorter timeframes, or you'll need to put those deposits down. Whereas some projects that say, okay, already this is a 5-year project, you have, you need 180 days, you'll need this, 365 days, you'll need that, 540 days, you'll need that. So they really lay it out for you, and it helps you to plan. And as Kwesi mentioned, it helps you to sort of consider working with other partners if you feel that you're going to fall short of that, because no word of a lie, if you do fall short, they're taking your deposit and you've lost that property, and they're going to go sell it to someone else. So being prepared, understanding what the consequences are. And if you sign up for pre-construction because you're interested and you're excited, but then you go back and you look at your finances, you do have 10 days to like really cool off and think, wait, this is not the project for me. But you have to take that seriously and use those 10 days to really evaluate, will I be able to come up with that down payment, and so on, and then walk away if it's not the right thing for you. But I would suggest before you even sign the paperwork, all that, so that you're not wasting Sasha's time, you're not wasting Kwesi's time, or anybody else involved in the project, and you know what you're about. I would say that that's the down payment part is different for the pre-construction, for sure.
Yes, and the coming back to the deposit and the structure, Aubrey asks, is this just for the second property in Quebec, or is it second properties in Canada? And I think Sasha and Kwesi, would you agree that it's second properties in Canada that you're expected typically to put down the 20 or 25%?
20%.
Yeah, that's right. There are some creative things that are out there, but just think of it as the 20%. You got to get to the 20%.
Yeah. So Aubrey, it's yes. And for everyone on this call, as a first-time buyer, there are some, different guidelines and some benefits, incentives really by the government. But in general, if you're buying your second property or you're, an investor, you're expected to put the 20%. And like Kemba said, and Sasha, as Kwesi, it's over a scheduled period of time, even up to 2-3 years, that the builder, depending on the style of the project, they'll give you to establish that 20%, so that you can plan it out and coordinate it with others.
And not to lose too much time, I just wanted to get into maybe some of the do's and don'ts you'd advise people on when they're thinking about getting into condos. Like, what are some of the things that you would suggest that they prepare for, that they do to make sure that they're ready to buy and they're closing and everything's going well, and maybe even selecting the right properties? What's some advice you can give?
Kwesi, do you want to start this time? I think you're muted.
Yeah. No problem. So do's and don'ts of it. So first you have to, and some of these things, folks like Keen and Sasha will be right on board to support you with. So researching the building, researching the developer, or this is for resale. So researching the building, researching developer, ensuring that you have like a working understanding of the neighborhood. Also ensuring that you're able to have what we like to say, like a lawyer that specializes in understanding condo documents. So have them, review those documents, bylaws, kind of financial statements, which is important because there's a concept called the reserve fund, and the reserve fund is there to support any major things or repairs that need to occur within a particular condominium. And if the reserve fund, and your lawyer should be able to point this out, if the reserve fund is somewhat not as pronounced as it could be, it could potentially, signal something, not so good in terms of either the condo board and or just the way that the condo is being operated and run. Consider the maintenance fees, just to ensure that the building. Sometimes you're not able to understand kind of the nuances of how high the maintenance fee or how low it is, but just ensure that you understand, what it is that you're paying for and how it factors into your monthly budgeting. In terms of don't for condos, we try to say do not skip the inspection process. I mean, it's somewhat different from, let's say, a home that is a standalone home, but we try to say to people, don't skip the inspection process. We also say, when you're looking to purchase, you want to actually be in the space itself. Sometimes people like to either see like a unit that is staged, but you want to have the understanding of that particular space. And also don't always assume that, the lower the fees, the monthly fees, it always means the better. Again, you want to understand what the fees are paying for, and how does that kind of impact the reserve fund ultimately. So those are just a few that I thought that I'd kind of bring forth today.
Sasha, maybe you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, Kwesi pretty much covered a lot of it. So like he said, you want to verify the financial status. You want to know that the project is in good financial standing. So like Kwesi was saying, verifying the budgets, the meeting minutes. You want to know what was discussed in the past. What have been issues, if any, that have been raised, and have they been resolved? You want to make sure you get access to that. You want to find out if there's any special assessments coming up for large repairs, things that might have been unexpected. Do they have the budget for it? You want to pay attention to the area, like he said, get an idea of the potential of the project. If you're in a pre-construction that's going to have multiple phases, and you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and purchase the top floor in the first phase because I'm going to have a great view and I'm going to be able to rent it out at a great rent. Well, find out where the other units or phases are going to be positioned, because if you have a second building that's built right in front of yours that just came and blocked your view, that criteria that you were looking for has now just been lost. So you want to really find out how exactly the project is going to be set out. For resale, you want to get copy of what we call the risk, or the DRCOP, which is basically a request for information from the syndicate to find out your specific unit, if there's anything in particular that you need to know about, whether it's legal issues with the previous owner, or any problems that they may have had, claims that may have happened against the property, because you want to make sure that your insurance is not too high. So there's a lot of information that you want to check to make sure that you're investing in the right thing. And you also want to have a really good understanding, for somebody who's never had condos at all. You really want to have a good understanding of how condos are structured, how they're managed, what your obligations are, so that you can make sure that it's the right type of investment for you. And also, specifically here in Quebec, you want to make sure that you familiarize yourself with the new laws. So we have Bill 16, Bill 141 that have been slowly coming into effect over the last couple of years that have been causing a lot of confusion amongst some of the buyers, not really sure what it means, what it's going to cost them, and whether or not it applies to all types of condominiums. So we have horizontal, we have vertical condominiums, and are they really the same thing? So you really have to find someone that's going to be able to help you navigate all of this information and make a final determination of what's the right project for you based on all that information.
And Sasha, I think that you make a good point in that there's so much information related to any given condo that you might look at, whether it's a pre-construction or a new resale, that it helps to have someone make sure that you're getting all the details you need. You're not missing any points. Sometimes a deal may not be such a deal if like, sometimes price point is a very attractive, incentive when you look at certain condos, but then when you actually get into it, it's not a good investment because of things like the condo board and the maintenance fees and so having someone help you navigate that, so you're not buying something that is what they call an albatross, because it's something just it doesn't help you. It doesn't actually help you build wealth, and you want to have that guidance. So for sure. And I think that answers one of the questions, because I was going to ask, how does a realtor help? Like, if you can.
So I wanted to interject for a quick second. So Sasha had mentioned something. I'm not too sure if it's apples and apples, but here in the GTA, one of the documents, one of the more important documents from a resale perspective, is called the status certificate that you would receive. And in the status certificate, you would have the ability to see fees, the legal actions, arrears, things like the condo declaration, budget management contact, the reserve funds, and just rules of the condo. And those are some of the kind of key things that you want to have at least you need to have a grasp and understanding of, because when you get there and let's say, for example, the condo, or they say you can't have this in this particular area or space, or this particular space is used for something else, and you say, well, I didn't know. It's usually somewhere outlined in the status certificate with regards to those things for that particular space that you're purchasing from a resale perspective. So that's an important and key document that again, a lawyer and or your realtor can have you to look at some of these key components to understand what you're purchasing from that perspective.
And it's more specific, Kwesi, I think, to the condo corporations, to the status certificate here in Ontario, compared to, buying a resale home or a pre-construction home. They don't have that same. I know that when I was selling my condo about a year ago, that was something that was requested by the buyers, right? And I think it does what you're speaking of, Sasha, here in Ontario. It gives you all that information as a buyer, so that you can know what's going on with the condo as a whole, not just the unit alone, because the unit is only one small piece of this big collective. And so I think that was a good point, Kwesi, to mention.
We have two questions in the chat. Sorry, Sasha, did you want to add to that?
Just really, really quickly, because Kwesi touched on a good point about the inspection and not skipping that. And I just wanted to add also, don't skip the inspection of the common areas. Because a lot of people say, well, I'm going to inspect my unit. I don't really care about the stairwell or the terrace or anything like that. But it's really important to do the whole thing. Your investment involves the whole building. And so if there's a problem that you can figure out right at the beginning in the whole project or in your whole building, it's very important to be able to do that and not just focus on your individual unit. And one last quick thing I wanted to say is, a lot of people, if you're planning on renting, a lot of people will say, they don't want to necessarily focus on lower floors. They want to go ahead and get the higher floor because it's probably going to be worth more. But from a rental perspective, renters and buyers don't think the same way. A renter wants to pay the least amount of rent, and he's not going to pay you an extra $1,000 just because he's getting one floor up. So these are little things just to not to necessarily just focus on, really think about what your project is about and what you're trying to do, and then make the decision based on that, and take all those things into consideration is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Okay, that's a good point. It's what is your purpose for owning that? And then you make decisions based on that. And what I always advise people, especially first-time buyers, although you're buying it for your own personal use, always try to think of, okay, if this is an investment, it's a huge investment for me. And so even if I like this or that, or I want this or that, is that good for the market and for resale and so on? So always think like an investor to a certain extent, even as a first-time buyer, because you want to know that that's going to build wealth for you and people will want that product later. It's not just because you're in love with the idea of buying and you're happy to buy. You want to also just make sure you consider, is it going to sell well? Is it going to appreciate well? Is it going to, what is it going to do for me? So that's a somebody asked the question.
I think the first one is, as a first-time buyer, would you recommend this type of investment? And I think you were both recommending it, and it's just you're saying do your due diligence.
Exactly. This type of investment allows you to sort of, if you're new to buying properties as a whole, gives you the opportunity to get in there and see what ownership is like and see what the process is about, and have some help with regard to maintenance, for example, which when you have a larger home might be a little bit overwhelming for a first-time buyer. It gives you a chance to learn what it's like and what the process is. And obviously the purchase price is a little bit smaller, so then you can try to work your way and pay it off quicker, and then use that equity and try to go and do bigger things as you get more familiar with it. So definitely for a first-time buyer, I think it's a very good option.
Yeah, so super agreed. Some people talk about it being a ladder, like a property ladder. This is where you come in. This is where you can just get on the ground. And I think if I could personalize it a little bit, I think for me, my mind was always set on the property. Like I needed to get, either a detached or a semi-detached property in terms of the first quote unquote property. And I neglected the opportunity to get in a condo earlier on. I'm not saying take my example and run with it, but once you get, if you have the discipline, I'll also say, my niece is on here, and I individuals that have the discipline in order to consider and focus on the task at hand that they set for themselves, the goal that they set for themselves. This is a wonderful way. Pre-construction is a wonderful way. And, or, if you have the ability to get into resale now, sometimes people fail to understand, and my mentor talks about this all the time. You want to, at this particular point in time, buy where you can afford, and rent where you want to live, right? There are implications. You want to talk to someone about, what those implications are. But if you are ready to move forward, get in touch with a person like Sasha, get in touch with the Keen Realty Group to say, this is where I am in the process. And I would love to know a little bit more about, what do I need to get to the finish line. Condominiums are wonderful. Say all that to say it's a wonderful way to get on the ladder, to get involved, to get engaged in this real estate world. Yeah, I want to wrap up, with saying this towards the end, but your presence here today, listening to these wonderful individuals, taking the opportunity to learn and to grow more in your understanding, you are steps ahead of the game in terms of other individuals. But you also have to think about putting those strategic kind of markers in place and trying your best to move towards them at a steady pace, which is going to be just as, the most important thing. Create the plan and then just, take action, massive action.
Yes. And I remember, Kwesi, when you and Sasha speak, I just think the reason why I started with pre-construction condo and pre-construction properties was I didn't have the capital all up front. And so, if you're a first-time buyer, it is an excellent way to get started because it gives you a schedule. It's almost a disciplined process. As long as you you take what Kwesi said before and you look at what you're able to do and how you can get it done over time, or if you can have others join you along the way. I felt like it was just more attainable when I started to start in pre-construction because it didn't require me having that big lump sum at the beginning. I could do little, manageable amounts over time.
We have some more questions we didn't cover. So
go ahead, Kimba.
So Aubrey asked, can the board decide at any time that they can block short-term or long-term rentals in your unit?
So from my limited knowledge, there are provisions that are in place for the board to make such decisions. But again, one of the things that you as an owner would have to do, get involved to ensure that, the board are making decisions that reflect, the will, quote unquote, of the other owners. But there are provisions that are there that provides boards with the ability to do that. And they have. I've known some condominiums in particular in the downtown core that I've tried to get, clients into that have kind of specific restrictions around short-term rentals.
Yes.
And
it's already in their documents and their agreements. So it's not like the board is just saying out of nowhere, Aubrey, it's already written into, the documents. So,
right.
So that even at the outset of purchase, when you can inquire and ask if it is already a restriction that you have to have a 12-month lease, because if it is, that means that short-term rentals are not something favorable for that unit.
My cousin's development in Florida doesn't even allow long-term rentals.
Yes, and we've seen that too.
Yeah.
I'm in Florida as well, and I've seen that too. It's so funny, right? It's such a flip of what we see here.
Florida is a different animal in terms of their rules and their how they work. Florida is a different animal altogether because the communities are based on what they'll allow, and there's all short terms in one area and then all long terms in another, and we don't do it that way up here. You can have side-by-side buildings and so on that allow that. Sasha, I think you wanted to add something.
I just wanted to add that, yes, it is already usually in the documents, in the declaration of co-ownership. But if for some reason it's not, like we do sometimes see in like smaller projects that are self-governed, you do have the ability, your ownership allows you the right to vote on those kinds of subjects. So you will have a say if later on they want to come in and make that type of change, you'll be able to vote on whether or not you want to ban it or allow it. So you do have a voice if there's something that's not already defined in the declaration of co-ownerships or in the building regulations.
So if you own 5 units, do you get 5 votes?
Yeah, so the votes are totaled based on the percentage that you own. And so the percentages are based on the characteristics of your unit. And they're defined ahead of time. So by the builder, if you have, for example, more square footage, or if you have an extra parking space, the number of votes that you get is based on those characteristics. So you know it in advance. And yes, you'll be able to represent based on the number of votes that you have.
Nice.
And you have to be active, because one of the things is you have to pay attention to what the board is doing and what they're proposing. Even if you're not attending all the meetings, you need to be familiar with what's going on. Especially in the initial stages of a new corporation and a new condominium, it's so important that you're part of that process. I mean, somewhat established resale ones, it's not easy to change what is already and what have already been, approved, unless some of those owners are gone. Right.
And you can also not just participate, by voting, but you can actually become an administrator, and that's even better because you'll have firsthand, knowledge of what's coming or what decisions that they're planning on bringing to the rest of the co-owners. So there's really a lot of ways for you to get involved and make sure that you have a say.
Yes. And that the building reflects what you and maybe a greater percentage of the owners want.
Yeah. Okay, and then one of the last questions here is resale properties seem to be sold for less. At least that's what I've heard. Is that something that first-time buyers should take advantage of? And do you see a trend of resale selling for less, or like what do you see in the market right now?
So for me, I always try to clarify, not necessarily selling for less, but we're not seeing as much bidding. So the prices are not increasing as quickly as they were, let's say 2 years ago. And so you have to keep into account as well, the rates. So you might get it for a lesser price than you would have bought for 2 years ago, but you're paying more interest. So at the end of the day, for me, what I always tell my clients, the right time for you to buy is based on your situation. If you have the capacity and if the project that you're looking to start makes sense for this moment, then it's the right time for you, regardless of, I'm not saying that the market is not important. It is important, but you have to look at your situation and establish based on that, and not necessarily just say, oh, the prices are going down, the market's going to crash. Let me just jump in because, at some point you're going to want to resell that property too. And so you have to look at it from both perspectives. And so, yes, we're seeing a little bit less of bids, but there's a lot more factors than just that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I might just kind of jump in there, I try my best to kind of share that insight with folks. When the market starts to shift in the ways that it has, we haven't seen something as great as this, but we've just come out, or we're still going through a once in a generation instance, which was the pandemic. But I will say that when the time is right, it needs to be right for you and the situations that surrounding yourself, right? There is always a deal to be made in whatever market that you're a part of, but are you ready for that deal? Are you ready to move forward in terms of the preparation that you have done to this particular point in time? And I think we like to say, we're buy and hold kind of a company in space, and we want for folks to think about the long term. But we understand too, like myself, transactions is where, is part of the bread and butter for myself as a realtor. But ultimately, when we're looking at our investor clients, when we're looking, when I try to give advice to my folks, even my niece, it's about the long-term play, in my opinion. But coming back to Sasha's more important overarching point, at any point in time that you're ready, at any point in time that you've had the insights from Keen, from Sasha and others to move forward, you need to kind of just, be brave and take that step in terms of moving in that direction. Because one of the things you don't want to do is wait for the quote unquote bottom, wait for this and wait for that. You need to tell the market, where you're at and where you want to go. And trust me, the market in most cases will bend to your will.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You are the market. Yeah, so those are great points. And I think that both types of investments are great investments. And I really love the idea of, do what's right for you. But we always, when people ask me the question, when is the right time to buy? Now, yesterday, now, it's time. And I 100% agree. The right time to buy for any individual is that time. But I find sometimes people do tend to feel like, oh, I need to have everything in the bank before I do the deposit, or I need to have, all my ducks lined up, everything I need to know, everything I need to, and you do need, I think you have to use the 80-20 rule. You need to have, 80% of everything ready. You need to have 80% of the knowledge you need. Just build yourself up, but don't feel like it has to be perfect before you jump in and take some action, because sometimes it's more perfect than you realize. So someone like Sasha, if you're sort of looking at a property, or you're thinking about buying in Quebec, talk to Sasha, just meet with her and say, hey, this is what I think and this is where I'm at. Sasha might give you some advice that will help you just get to that next little hump to get the purchase done. And same with Kwesi, like he can sort of have a chat with you about where you're at to say, okay, this is how you can do the next step to get to the successful point. So we're a little over at 12 o'clock, and I wanted to, Sasha, why don't you just share with people how they can reach you? We'll share that.
I'll put my contact details in the chat, but you can reach me either by email, sasha@mcinnis.com, or on my website, sashamckinnis.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram under @soldwithsasha. All of my contact, I respond pretty quickly to all of those. So if you send me a message anywhere there, or even just pick up the phone and give me a call, I'll be able to help you guys out.
Awesome. And Kwesi?
Yeah, so I try to be as live as I can be on Instagram. So first and last name .realtor. So Kwesi.Johnson.realtor. I'm also www.kwesijohnson.ca. I have a website up. But feel free, reach out to me, call, dial. I'll put my number in the chat. If you're interested in just having a quick conversation, feel free to send me a text message. I'm pretty responsive. People don't use text messages anymore, so start texting away, folks.
Can I suggest, can you put your Instagram or your social media handles in the chat, so that if somebody's just, they've seen you here today, they, that you can have that as an option for people to follow you, and then maybe reach out to you.
Yeah.
When they're ready. So yeah. Andrea, so I have some of our information here in terms of Keen. You can reach out to us anytime. We have a course coming up April 6th, where we're doing a group coaching opportunity, where we will bring a group together and we will go through some of the fundamentals of investing. That group coaching is an opportunity for you to ask your questions about your specific situation. We can connect you with some of the folks who might be able to help you, like Mr. Kwesi here or Sasha, if you haven't already made a connection with them, and help you to move yourself along, depending on if you have some hurdles that you haven't been able to reach, or you just need the education. So more details in terms of like what we talked about today in relation to condos or resale or multifamily, or anything that you might be interested to get into. The course is available. It's actually not a course, it's a group coaching, and there are courses available as part of that group coaching opportunity, so you can take those as well. Pharaoh, did you have anything to share as well yourself?
Yeah, well, just thanks everybody for participating. I put a quick note in the chat just to remind people, because we're trying to see where people are getting the contacts and the information from. So if you guys could, when you get a chance, just quickly respond so we have an idea what marketing platforms are working. And also for those who are in Montreal, next week Thursday we're hosting a workshop. Actually, throughout the month of March, we have 3 workshops to help entrepreneurs. So if we have other business owners, entrepreneurs who are here and who are in Montreal. And I'm saying that because this one is in person. Normally we have virtual workshops to accommodate our members across Canada, but in this particular case, it's in person, and it's a workshop on communication. Again, to help our entrepreneurs to be able to sell and retain their customers, understanding the value in communication and customer service and different things like that. So that's coming up next week Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'll put the link in the chat. It's going to be free for members of the community. community. So they're welcome to come out and participate. And it's a part of the Black Entrepreneurial Knowledge Hub, which is a national initiative. So depending on where you are in Canada, I think everybody from here is in Canada. There's different workshops happening throughout the country. So if you're not in Montreal, but you are interested in taking part in one that is in another part of Canada, just reach out to me directly, and I'll see where is the workshops that are happening in your province or city.
Yes. And by the way, OFC members get a discount on our event coming up April 6th, and they get a discount on everything that we do, actually. So this event was free, brought to you by the OFC. And I would say that like this expo that's coming up, OFC does a really great job in trying to negotiate options for us to attend and to get a lot of knowledge as a collective. And so good job, Pharaoh and OFC. So yeah, so everyone, how about this? We're gonna wrap up, but if anyone has some final questions, you can put it in the chat and we can see if we can address anything. But we want to give everyone an opportunity to head off and get their Saturday on.
And has everybody registered? Was this the last one in the series, or we have one more coming? We have another one coming up in April.
Oh, we have lots coming up.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
This is not, there's no last of this.
Good, good, beautiful. Good.
So
in that case, I want to remind everybody to also register for the next one if you haven't already.
Yes,
I think it's the same Eventbrite link, so I'll reshare it again.
Eventbrite link, yes, and we'll be talking about insurance next time, where insurance and real estate is a big deal, where you need insurance to close on every single deal, but there's also some strategies to use insurance tools to help you either purchasing, and there's some really fantastic insights on insurance and how you can use that. So we'll be talking about that next time.
Cool. I just put it in the chat for those who want to join that workshop.
Okay, so guys, to our guest Sasha, really amazing. Really thank you for taking the time to come out and to prepare for this event and to share today. And I guess we'll be in touch, you and I.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it.
No problem. And Kwesi, same. Thank you, and thank you for coming and making the time to be here. Really appreciate it, and everything that you shared as well.
Thank you so much for having me. And folks, massive action.
Awesome. Okay, guys, have a wonderful Saturday. Andrea, did you want to say anything, by the way? I'm leaving you out there.
Yeah, no, not at all. I thought Sasha and Kwesi did a great job. And thank you, Farah, for just reminding people of other great events that are up and coming. Part of, keeping us connected and informed that's One Full Circle is doing a great job of that. And I think I'd love to see a lot of you come out to these things. I wasn't sure if what Farah mentioned was anything similar to the one that we were trying to join here in Ontario, Kemba, the Black Business Expo, but those are other great opportunities to see lots of other businesses. If you're on here and you're a business and you want to connect with groups, I think that it's great to plug into those events. I mean, that's how we've met some of the speakers that we have on this Real Estate 101 is going out to these events.
And I see our brother Gaston, he has a quick question. I don't know, Gaston, if you want to mention it now, if you want to.
Yeah, oui.
Bonjour.
Bonjour tout le monde. Oui. Bonjour Faro au top. Donc, mon nom c'est Gerson, tout ça. Donc, déjà, félicitations pour cette belle présentation ce samedi matin. Je veux dire, le Real Estate 101, c'est super efficace. J'ai mis aussi l'approche par rapport aux investissements des nouveaux condos. In Québec et en Ontario aussi. Donc, ça, c'est awesome. So, maintenant, moi, je voulais juste savoir si...
Attends un instant, Garçon. So, and I'll try, for those, I'm not sure if everybody here is fluently bilingual. So for those who are not, we do make it a point to translate when needed. So Garçon is one of our members here in Quebec. So yeah, obviously. So he's just introducing himself, and he was just mentioning how he is appreciating the one-on-one real estate workshops. That was my paraphrase. Was he proud?
Yes, thank you a lot, Faro. So then what I said is congratulations for everybody. Then my only question is for, I'm living in Montreal right now. So I just want to know if Sasha was in real estate in Montreal. And that is my first question. And Udo is in Montreal, living in Montreal, because I just want to know if I can call her maybe today or whatever when she just available. Then I just want to talk about something. Faro, I have some idea in real estate because I do real estate most than 18 Eves. Okay, so then I'm a developer in real estate. So I do a lot of construction, a lot of investment. We talk about, on appelle ça des immeubles à revenus. So, okay. So, du coup, I make some programs for some real estate in Montreal, in Quebec, Canada. So I just want to know how I can help them, because we know the market is slowed down right now because the interest rates jump up. So I think it's probably the market. So we can fight it, but. As he said, I think the brother said, just you make your market. So I really like this statement. So if I can help, so I have so many ideas. Then some clients who don't have no money, we can help them. Some clients who need some new construction, we can help it. With some clients who need some renovation, but sometimes money is less than more, so we can help it. So dis-moi, Pharaoh, si je peux aider, dis-moi.
I think that's thank you for offering that, my brother. So I think it's a good conversation to have, to maybe set up to have you maybe even be one of the presenters in one of the future workshops, because I think because you're right, he does have his company. That's what they do help, and they do pool people together as well to help for those who have less income and stuff like that, to enable people to be able to invest and to get started. So he has awesome initiatives and stuff that he already is doing here and in different parts of the world. So I think that could be a value, and maybe we could even stretch that one and make it more bilingue, so we could have some more French and English people within the collective. It's great for networking, so it's fun. So yes, Brother Gaston. So let's so Kemba, Andrew, let's make a note of that and connect with Brother Gaston to have him take part. And
yes, for sure, that sounds great. I think we do want to have another session on construction and how we build. So that would be a great time to have Gaston on, and we already have our Montreal Quebec connection there, so that would be wonderful.
Cool. Okay, so we'll coordinate that. Awesome. The power of community. It's great. Good stuff. So I'll just bless everybody. I'm so grateful again to life, God, our creator, and our ancestors for always creating these opportunities for us to be able to get together. And I just ask that just life continue to bless each and every one of you guys, keep you guys in great spirits and great health, that you be able to continue to expand and grow, support yourselves, your families, as well as your communities. Hotep, amen, ashe, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the Saturday. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, Pharaoh.
Peace.
Thank you, Kwesi.